when John Rambo returned as a prequel, and how Noah Centineo stepping into the role signaled the biggest shift the franchise has ever taken as production officially began. Today's video covers the confirmed facts behind John Rambo, including the cast announcements, the film's current status, why this project exists at all, and what it suggests about the future of one of the most recognizable action characters ever created. John Rambo is a feature-length prequel film that entered active production in late January 2026, marking the franchise's first major step forward since 2019. Rather than functioning as a sequel, reboot, or remake of First Blood, the movie moves backward in time, telling an origin story set before the 1982 film and centered on Rambo's early life. Long before audiences knew him as a traumatized drifter across 5 films, released between 1982 and 2019. Franchise history changed the moment this project was announced, because for the first time, John J. Rambo is being portrayed by someone other than Sylvester Stallone, with the role now officially held by Noah Centineo. Behind the scenes, Lionsgate is releasing the film, supported by Millennium Media, Templeton Media, and AGBO, the production company founded by Anthony and Joe Russo. And as of January 30, 2026, cameras were already rolling. Casting Noah Centineo marked a clear turning point for the franchise, and the reason traces back more than 40 years. Since First Blood premiered in 1982, Sylvester Stallone and John Rambo were effectively inseparable, with Stallone carrying the character across 5 films before concluding his run in Rambo. Last Blood in 2019. That history meant this prequel instantly stood apart, because it became the first time the character would be reinterpreted by a new lead actor rather than extended or revisited by the original. Centineo's background in projects like To All the Boys I've Loved Before, Black Adam, and The Recruit drew immediate attention. And the result was a clear signal that this story targets a different stage of Rambo's life, before war, trauma, and isolation fully shaped who he would become. Reporting around the project confirms that the goal is not to recreate the Rambo audiences already know, which meant the casting choice existed to explore a version of the character set firmly before the events of First Blood. That decision defines the entire project. Story details remain intentionally limited, yet several points have been firmly established through reporting. Set before First Blood, the film focuses on Rambo's early life, with multiple outlets indicating that a Vietnam War-era background is implied, aligning with the character's long-established history. No specific missions, plot beats, or character arcs have been revealed, which meant the studio has also withheld a formal synopsis and left supporting roles unnamed. What has been clearly emphasized instead is tone, because the film is being framed as a survival-driven origin story rather than a continuation of the franchise's later entries. That framing points toward a more grounded approach, one focused on how Rambo became who he was rather than escalating the action beyond what the series already delivered. This story does not extend Stallone's ending, because the entire concept is built around going backward. Direction for John Rambo comes from Jalmari Helander, a filmmaker whose recent work already set expectations for the project's style. Helander directed Sisu in 2022, a film widely associated with intense, survival-focused action, which aligns closely with the themes of endurance, isolation, and physical struggle that have always defined Rambo. Writing duties fall to Rory Haynes and Sohrab Nashirvani, a team whose previous credits include Black Adam and Informer. Their involvement places the prequel in the hands of writers familiar with action-driven storytelling, although no details beyond the prequel framework itself have been confirmed. Past work provides context for what they bring to the table, and that context stops there. Promises about the story itself have not been made. Late January 2026 brought more than just the start of filming, because that moment also came with confirmed casting additions. As production officially began, supporting roles were announced for Yao, Jason Tobin, and Quincy Isaiah, though none of their character names have been publicly disclosed. Those announcements arrived at the same time cameras started rolling, which meant the project moved decisively from development into full production. That shift matters, because it separates John Rambo from projects that linger for years without momentum. Beyond these names, no further cast members or character details have been verified. What exists publicly is the lineup confirmed at the moment production began. Production is currently based in Bangkok, Thailand, where principal photography began in late January 2026. Trade publications confirmed filming at that time, establishing Bangkok as the only verified location connected to the shoot so far. No additional filming sites have been announced, and no projected end date for production has been released. For now, the status remains straightforward. The movie is actively filming. Sylvester Stallone is not starring in John Rambo, and that absence defines much of the conversation around the film. No cameo has been confirmed, no on-screen involvement has been announced, and nothing indicates that Stallone is participating directly in the project. Previous public comments from Stallone acknowledged interest in exploring Rambo's early years, specifically the character before trauma fully took hold. Despite that perspective, this prequel is moving forward without his involvement. That decision alone places this film among the most consequential creative choices the franchise has ever made. For the first time, Rambo exists on screen without Stallone carrying him. The roots of the franchise stretch back to 1972, when David Morrell published the novel First Blood. A decade later, in 1982, the first film adaptation arrived and launched a series that would span 5 movies across nearly 40 years. Across that run, the franchise earned more than $850 million worldwide at the global box office, cementing Rambo as a lasting pop culture figure. The most recent chapter, Rambo, Last Blood, arrived in 2019 and was widely understood as Stallone's final performance as the character. That ending explains why this new project looks backward rather than forward. A prequel allows the story to continue without rewriting the conclusion audiences already received. Reaction to the prequel has landed squarely in mixed territory since the announcement. Concerns surfaced quickly around whether anyone other than Stallone could embody Rambo, especially given how closely the character has been tied to his physical presence and personal legacy. Supporters responded with a different view, pointing out that a prequel opens the door to a version of Rambo defined before the full psychological weight of war. That contrast now defines the conversation around the film. With no footage, trailer, or expanded story details released, the debate remains unresolved. What exists instead is anticipation, split between optimism and skepticism. As of January 30, 2026, several major details remain unconfirmed. No budget has been announced, no release date has been shared, no trailer has been released, and no character descriptions for the supporting cast have been made public. Those gaps signal where the project currently sits, because the focus remains on filming rather than promotion. Marketing has not started, and the studio has kept attention squarely on production. This is the story of how John Rambo entered a new phase by looking backward instead of pushing forward. With Centineo taking on the role, filming underway in Thailand, and a creative team centered on survival and origin rather than pure nostalgia. This prequel stands as the franchise's boldest move since First Blood itself. Success will depend on execution, yet the confirmed facts already draw a clear picture. Production has begun, the cast is set, and for the first time in more than 40 years, John Rambo is moving forward without Sylvester Stallone leading the way. That shift alone makes this chapter impossible to ignore.